Lesson 13.5 is all about the law of cosines, which says anytime that you need to apply for a loan, you always will need a cosigner to make sure that if you defer on that debt, then they are now held financially responsible. That's not quite exactly what we're getting at here. Our law of cosines has nothing to do with banks at all. We are talking about trigonometry and more specifically triangles, in which case the trigonometric law of cosines states anytime we have a triangle with given angles A, B, and C, and the legs A, B, and C, we know three things are all going to be true. Three different forms of the law of cosines. Either little a squared equals little b squared plus little c squared minus 2 times little b times little c times the cosine of a, or, I'm not going to read through the rest of them, but there are two other formats for a total of 3 different forms of the law of cosines. Now again, notice how, like in this one, little c is out front and big C is used in the cosine, and then little a, little b are the ones used twice. That's going to happen in all of these. Little a out front, big A in the back, B and C, B and C, little b, big B, little a, little c, little a, little c. So you can apply this law of cosines to any triangle as long as you know the measures of 2 sides and the included angle, or the measure of all 3 sides. So those will come in handy when we're asked to solve for certain triangles. So in this case, if we are given a triangle with 2 sides and included angle, so let's say our triangle looks something like this. We have A, B, and C. This isn't drawn to scale, of course, but this is C. Angle C is 111. Little a is going to be over here. It's going to be equal to 27. And little b is going to be over here equal to 18. We need to find the remaining side and the 2 angles that correspond with the other ones. So to go for get our first one, we'd have to say that we need little c. And we know that little c squared equals 27 squared, that's our little a squared, plus little b squared, so 18 squared, minus 2 times the amount, 27 times 18, again that's our little a and our little b, times the quantity cosine of c, which is 111. Now if we punch all of this in our calculator, because we know everything, there are no unknowns on this side, we can simplify down to c equals approximately, or c squared is approximately 1,401.3. Then we just have to take the square root of both sides, and we're left with c is approximately 37.4. So right here we have our 37.4 is our little c. So we've already gotten one of our pieces down. Now from here, we could technically use the law of cosines to continue and have to use the arc cosine at this point to determine our b and our a. Or we could also get all this out of our way here. Get a little bit smaller, move our work there. At this point, we could just go back to using the law of sines, in which case we can say sine of 111 over 37.4 equals sine of a over 27. Solving then for a, multiply 27 across to sine 111 over 37.4 equals sine a. Now we need to take the arc sine of our entire left side over here, 27 sine 111 over 37.4 equals A, which means that A comes out to approximately 42 degrees, rounded to the nearest degree. I'm going to write that in here. And again, we could continue on, either again with the law of cosines or the law of sines, or at this point, I would say it's probably easiest just to do 180 minus 111 minus 42. That'll give us our last side, that B. So it's going to come out to 27 degrees. So we have our entire triangle solved for. Let's try a situation where we have our entire triangle, again, A, B, C, and only the sides are given. Little a equals 5, little b equals 8, again, not drawn to scale. Little c equals 7. In this case, we need to find one, or we need to find all of the angles left. To do that, we need to set it up as such so that we will have the cosine of one of those angles at the end, and then we can solve for everything and take the arc cosine to solve for that. So if we wanted to find angle A, we would have to set it up with the cosine of A at the end, which means we have to do little a squared equals little b squared plus little c squared minus 2 times bc cosine of A, and we don't know what A is. So we can only go that far. And we simplify things down. 25 equals 8 squared plus 7 squared is going to come out to 113 minus 2 times, oops, that's a 7. 2 times 8 times 7 is going to come out to 112 cosine of A. Now if we subtract 113 from both sides, we're left with negative 88 equals negative 112 cosine of A. Divide both sides by this negative 112. Negative 88 over negative 112 would reduce to 11 over 14 equals cosine of A. Now we need to find A alone, so we have to do the arc cosine of 11 over 14 is going to equal A. And so we'd say A comes out to approximately 38 degrees. I want to put that one right in here. So now we've solved for one of our angles. There are still 2 more that we need to do. So let's say we wanted to solve for B this time. Well, in this case, we'd have to start with little b squared. So 8 squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of b. Same as what we did before. Again, simplifying these down, we'd get 64 equals 5 squared plus 7 squared is going to be 74 minus 2 times 5 times 7 is 70 times the cosine of b. Subtract the 74 from both sides. We're left with negative 10 equals negative 70 times the cosine of b. And divide negative 70 on both sides. So negative 10 divided by negative 70 comes out to 1/7 equals cosine of b. And again, we have to take the arc cosine of 1 over 7 to get b, in which case we could say then that b comes out to approximately 82 degrees. Again, you just plug that right in. Now at this point, we could take the 2 that we know and subtract them from 180, which is normally what I would suggest, but I just want to show to you that we can use law of cosines on all 3 values, and they will all come out equal. They will still come out to a full triangle. So we need c, so we have to start with little c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of c. 7 squared is 49. 5 squared plus 8 squared is going to come out to 89. 2 times 5 times 8 is negative 80, and cosine of c still. We have to subtract 89 from both sides, so we get negative 40 equals negative 80 times the cosine of c. Divide both sides by this negative 80, and we are left with 1/2 equals the cosine of c. And we have to take the arc cosine of 1/2 to get c. And this one won't be approximate. This is exactly 60 degrees, because the cosine of 60 comes out to 1/2. So we know that c is exactly 60 degrees in this case. So those are our three angles found exactly, or at least this one is exact. The other two are more approximate, and all of our other legs. So we have solved this entire triangle using the law of cosines.